tell me about your new Adapt presentation?
So the new presentation that I have that includes the ability on how to adapt. And the reason I brought that into a presentation is because in the last 8 or 9 months with all this lockdown situation, it's been a word that's been bandied around quite a lot, and it's something that we've all been talking about, having to adapt, and we've had no choices to adapt and change. And it got me thinking that it's something I've actually been doing all my career as an athlete, having to adapt, having to change because of situations of, injuries, maybe loss of form, whatever the case may be. So I came up with this this principle that I call my ADAPT model, and I take the word adapt and I use it as an acronym, so ADAPT, and each of those letters stands for something different. So if we look at the first letter, which is A, that stands for acceptance. So, we find ourselves in a situation that we don't particularly want to be in. And the first thing we really need to do is accept that situation. So if we look at my example as an athlete, I could be preparing for an Olympic Games. I could be 7 or 8 months out, and all of a sudden I pick up an injury. Now, the obvious thing to do if it's just a little niggle is to ignore it and carry on. Well, there's a chance that that injury could become a lot worse and manifest into something bigger. But by accepting that situation, I can make the necessary changes to my training there and then, and hopefully it won't become something bigger. So we need to accept the situation that we find ourselves in. Once we've done that, we can move on to the next letter, which is D. And in this sense, it actually stands for direction. So we've accepted the situation. Are we still heading in the same direction to our plan, destination, to our goal, whatever that case may be? In my case, the Olympic Games. If the answer is yes, then we can, that's great. If the answer is no, then we've got to look at a new direction to turn in. So if I use athletics again as an example, I've picked up an injury. Is it a minor injury? Well, then yes, I'm still on course. It's only a minor detour. It might be a medium injury, so it's a bit of a medium detour. It could be a major career-ending injury, in which case I've got to look for a complete new direction to go in. So we need to determine the direction that we're going in. Once we've determined that, we can then move on to the next letter, which is another A, and that stands for alternatives. What other alternatives are out there for me now I'm heading in this direction or the same direction? Is this a situation of a process that I've been through before? If it is, what did I do then? Do I know anybody else that's been through this situation? What did they do? Do I need to bring other people in to the mix to help me get through and on, towards this destination? So once we've worked out what the alternatives are, we then move to the next letter, which is P, and that P now stands for the plan. We can now begin to put a plan together, a new process, a procedure, whatever you want. They're all P's. And then once we've worked out what the plan, the process, or the procedure is, we move on to the last letter, which is a T, which stands for transition, and that's transitioning that plan into action. Actually putting that plan into action. So what are the first steps? What are the second steps? And off we go again. And that kind of blueprint can fit to any situation in any walk of life. And part of the presentation that what I wanted to do was to give people not the answers, but at least a guidance for the questions for them to ask and answer themselves. And over the last few months, I have come to realize that mentally, people are really, really beginning to become a little bit lost on where they should be going, what they should be doing, how they can deal with these situations. So my plan with this presentation that includes adapting, it's actually based around mental resilience, was to help people come up with a bit of a blueprint for the beginning of a game plan. And I think once people get that, they can then start thinking, right, these are the bits I need to fill in. And before you know it, they've actually got a bit of a plan to start moving forward.